Hello, welcome to another month of our Oneness conversations. We have a beautiful theme for this month, the month of May 2023. We're talking about friendship. And that's such a beautiful topic as we're coming off of Mother's Day, which was yesterday. So we're super excited to dive in. If you are new to me or haven't seen me before, my name is Kim Lyde. I'm a holistic healing coach and board certified music therapist. So music and relationships with people are always fun for me to engage in. And I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful the mother of this conversation of our calls, Judith, so she can kick us off today.
Well, thank you so much, Kim. And I'm giggling to myself today as I welcome everyone because she usually refers to me as the fearless leader. And I love the mother of us all as the fearless leader and as a woman that comes from Irish Celtic background and very, very blessed to have been given birth many moons ago, as the first people talk about, from a beautiful mother of Irish Celtic ancestry. And her mother was from Irish Celtic ancestry as well. And so, as we experienced it just yesterday, what a blessing for the whole planet to honor all the mothers that have given birth to beautiful souls, to experience life on earth in all its challenges. But in all its challenges are also the opportunities to begin to learn how to really love in a deep level where we become more cognizant of the sacredness of life. And yes, life has many challenges. And the theme today, as I speak from the Algonquin sacred territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in Ottawa, Quebec, Gatineau, where I live, and Ottawa, the capital city in Ontario, we see the two solitudes of French Canadians and English Canadians and the ancestries of many international communities coming together in Canada to celebrate something significant to all babies born into this world, and that is the gift of motherhood. And of course, without mothers, we would not have these beautiful fathers that help us bring forth these beautiful souls. And it's so nice today to welcome Joey and Kim and myself and a very special friend of mine on a theme that's related to friendship, Sylvia Parker. Sylvia Parker and I have shared many, many projects over the years. And it's so nice that Sylvia will be listening in and perhaps contributing too from her perspective on the theme of friendship. So I welcome you all today as we look at the significance of these times and how mothers play a huge role in shaping and helping us to find true character, true values, like the Indigenous people talk about in the communities of ancient governance, the community governance were the clan mothers and the grandmothers and the mothers that held the communities together and the emotional, spiritual wellness and the well-being of that community to welcome new children to begin to discover at a very early age that all of us are beautiful souls born on this planet to experience life in its fullness and contribute in service our unique talents and gifts. So I find that in these times of great awakening, as we discuss friendship today, I personally have been blessed to have friends all over the planet because of having lived and served Canada in 6 different cultures. And this weekend for me in motherhood, it was a wonderful way of being blessed to be at my friend's home yesterday, to meet all her African friends. And she considers me a second daughter. And as I was saying to Joey, what happens when your children are growing up, if you're really blessed to have their friends consider you as their mother, you become one large universal family. So there's much to celebrate, but also much to honor that there are challenges in the times we're living. But today we're going to discuss friendship and why it is so important to make sure that the friends you choose are ones that come from strength and character and values. And if they don't, give them a break and help them come and see your mom and dad if you're lucky enough to have families that welcome your friends home to your home. So, but on behalf of all of us today, welcome to this conversation. And I'm going to pass it on to Joey to build on this wonderful theme called friendship.
Yeah, thanks so much, Judith. If y'all don't know me, my name is Joey. I'm an emotional healing practitioner, and I help clients to become self-sovereign in their own emotional healing. And Friendship is such a great topic. I truly believe that we as an individual are most shaped by those who we spend the most time with. And so it's definitely something to take a look at to see, who do you spend your time with and how does that shape you as a person, as well as how do you shape others that you spend time with as well. So that's why I love so much of different natural methods and ancient techniques of self-development, because it gives us a good window into becoming more aware of who we are, how we act in the world, and how we shape those around us. So I think friendship is a very good avenue to kind of become self-aware of and to see how you do spend time with others. And kind of the same thing, maybe in the way in which you miss maybe people in your life you don't get to spend as much time with. I know that's what it was for me, as Judith was talking about Mother's Day. Is I'm in a different state than my own mom, so I definitely was not able to be there physically with her. And then it just so happened to be that she also had technical issues around her at that time, where the Wi-Fi went down at the same time that her cell service went down. So she ended up having to call me on her Mother's Day because I couldn't reach out to her. But then I was able to talk to my sister. It's her second year as being a mother, and missing my time with my niece as well. So it's interesting to feel the missing of relationships also. But I think it makes it that much more special when you do get that time together, to have that sense of time from each other. Um, yeah, that's what I have to say for now. So, Kim, is there anything that you'd like to add on for the topic of friendship this month?
Oh, there's so much. There's so much I could say, so many different avenues that we could go down. Um, I think one thing, just one out of the list that we could be aware of is our sense of responsibility when it comes to our friends, and really like not being afraid to show who you really are and to be authentic with them. I know that for me, having friends was always a huge struggle growing up, because I grew up in an abusive household. So I was told to not make friends so that no one would know. So I didn't actually know how to reach out to people because I was always told not to. And so going through, middle school, high school, things like that, that is really when I started learning how to bond with people, and how to develop friendships, which is really late, in the social development world. It's quite late to try to be learning those skills, because you usually learn those like in preschool and, kindergarten, you learn all those kinds of things. So I've actually, to this day, often still struggle just reaching out to people. Like, I'm not the person that usually reaches out, I'm usually the person who responds. And it's taken some of my friends a while to understand that that's kind of how I operate, not because I don't care, but because that's how I learned how to be with people. So coming back to the sense of responsibility, now that I'm older and I know better and I've been through personal development and coaching and all of that stuff, I can catch those things about myself and kind of just come forward with it when I'm speaking with people, when I'm talking to friends or people that I care about, having that sense of responsibility to say, hey, just so you know, this is something you might want to know about me. And letting them know, like, right off the bat, like, just being fully authentic and saying, I love you, I care about you, even when I don't reach out, and sometimes that's hard for me, and be, explaining, have patience, have patience, have some grace, and because I do know that it can be hurtful, it can be harmful to people, because they're thinking, hey, well, she never calls, like, she doesn't understand. So just that's kind of the first thing that pops into my mind, is just having that awareness for yourself and with the people that you are friends with. How do they like to interact? Are they texters? Are they callers on the phone? Do they prefer email? Or are they on social media? Like, just being aware of how can we meet people where they're at, so that as we're connecting, we can be authentic with ourselves, and we can also honor the authenticity of the people that we're connecting with. So that's, I know that's huge. We could go in so many different directions, but I just felt like that is something from my experience that I can kind of contribute for this conversation. So
Well,
let's build.
I just want to thank you so much for sharing that, because what you're expressing is so, what I would say, applicable to these times of COVID and its effects on many children, and the understanding of addressing trauma within a home is very significant to our growing awareness as it relates to a lot of the indigenous issues in our countries all over the planet. And the number of people that are going through a lot of pain and trauma right now because of a chronic disease I refer to as loneliness. And the growing expanded consciousness, Kim, that you're addressing is we're all going to be going through trauma in different ways. And to be really cognizant, many of us have become extroverts because of our life story. Because in order to keep moving and making new friends, you had to learn, I personally, to make the first move. And so being the new kid in the block on a constant basis, I developed a personality based on survival. If I didn't speak first, I wouldn't know anyone sometimes, right? So we have these two diverse parallels happening in our lives, depending on our life stories. But I believe in these times, as we keep expanding consciousness, we begin to see we have more than common than what separates us. And so little children are very, very vulnerable. And they're also very, very conscious, and they do not get fooled. So a child can sometimes be the greatest teacher if we can but slow down and witness each other as a little child in all of us that's still sometimes growing up and beginning to learn interpersonal skills in much more healthier ways because of coaches like you and coaches like Joey and people like myself that work in the Ministry of Listening, and all of us as one human family beginning to understand the significance of human relationship and how do we get better at being better, and as mothers doing our best is good enough, and also as a human family learning that all cultures have so much to teach us about ourselves. And in these challenges of conversations, to be real and authentic is a process for all of us to really get to know ourselves better. So when someone shares a story, they're helping us to see, hey, maybe we've had a little bit of trauma in our lives that we've never been able to name. So thank you for naming that today, because that could describe a lot of people right now living through that process. So Joy, would like to add to that, or Kim, would you like to respond to what I just said?
I think first of all, thank you for honoring that space. And I when you brought up the children, that kind of gave me another thought too. The children really were impacted during the COVID thing with the shutdown and all of that, particularly the preschoolers, like the small ones that are just learning how to connect and interact. I know there's been speech delays and issues with communication, um, and having those skills of learning how to share, learning how to say hi to people, and all of that. We've really seen that in schools. Children. My daughter was partially impacted because she's 5. She's in kindergarten now, so she couldn't go to preschool when she was 3, but she was able to go when she was 4. Um, so that's just another thing to be aware of, is supporting really a whole generation of children who have been through this worldwide situation that's not just here in America. I mean, it's everywhere around the world where there's an impact that has occurred on at least 1 or 2 years of children around certain ages, where we get to support them now and help kind of nurture that process of reconnecting and communicating authentically with those around them and learning those social skills. So that's also a great thing to bring up.
And thank you, because building on friendships, it's all ages. And sometimes we don't recognize the lingering effects of the reality of what humanity's just been through. I just had a story by an elder telling me that her older friends were so traumatized and are still living in fear that they don't even leave their homes now. So you see, there's an old saying, as you get older, you become like a child. Well, some people, as they get older, they can be really adversely affected. And there's nothing more important than friendship, no matter the age. So our theme today is about friendship, how significant friends are to help us through the storms of life. And when we lose that capacity for human relationship, it's deeply traumatizing to our hearts and our souls. And Joy, you were speaking to it yourself. When we're separated from our birth mothers and we're living in different states or provinces or all over the world, it can be very traumatizing when we want to help our mothers know we care by calling them and we can't reach out. But fortunately, we have a smart enough mother to reach out to us. But sometimes some mothers and some grandmothers can't do that because sometimes they haven't developed those skills to know there's a plan B. So we all have to develop the plan B, C, D's, and E's in life. And like a child, they need friends. They not only need to learn the alphabet, they need to learn the social skills so they grow in their own capacity to know who they are and to feel good about themselves. And that takes a lifelong journey. So Joy, start building on that particular way as it relates to your journey and how it affected you, COVID, and the ability of relationships and having friends.
Yeah, loving the conversation. I feel like connection is really a natural aspect of being human. We may have different ways in which we begin that connection or sustain that connection or even stop the connection. And I think it's always good to look at those things, which I really appreciate Kim bringing that up, as to like how we began as a child and what worked for us. That, you know, we had ways that used to work for us, and now we find better ways to communicate that to our relationships, so that there's not really expectations of the relationship, but more better understanding and agreements we can make, with maybe co-designing what that looks like, what your strengths are, maybe what you're working on, and how you both have the same idea of wanting to further the relationship, but maybe it happens in different ways. And for mine, growing up in a family of divorced parents around 2 years old, I often moved semi-frequently, at least in the beginning years before third grade. There was a lot of different elementary schools. So I know that was part of my habit of making friends. Is I was, like Judith was saying, was the new person in town often, the new person at the school. And so I was always more shy, at least when I was younger. I guess you could say more introverted, and people would reach out to me, and then I'd make friends and make really good friends with the smaller group. And then that changed throughout middle school and high school, and now more as an adult looking to work at that too. I've talked in the past, like being in higher education and college and so forth. It's like you just kind of automatically created peer groups. And then once school kind of fell away, then I realized, like, oh, I have to sustain these things. I need to put work into it. It requires work to continue the friendships, or even finding new people. And that actually just happened in the last month for me, where I was on an airplane reading a book, and the guy next to me asked me about the book, and then we like talked the entire plane ride after that. And then I'm pretty sure I was the one to ask to exchange phone numbers, because he had lived in the state but was visiting where I was going to, because his family was from there. And then we just connected. I think I sent out a text message months later, and we kind of just like went back and forth a little bit. And then he randomly invited me to a dinner gathering he was having with some friends. And so there was that point right there where, like, he invited me out. I kind of changed my behaviors to try and reach out initially a couple times, which was what I was practicing on, and I'm glad I did. And then when he reached out and invited me, then I had to like make a decision there, right? There's like all these different like personal anxieties that I have from the past that would tell me, no, don't do it. You can make an excuse and not make it to the event. And so I worked through that with the techniques that I work with, and I went. And I'm very glad I did. It was interesting because going to the small gathering, like I've realized that pretty much only a couple people knew each other. Everybody knew the person that invited us, the host, but he all met us in random, weird, different ways. And it was just very much his style of person. Because they'd ask me like, "Oh, how'd you meet him?" Like, "Oh, I met him on an airplane." They're like, "Oh, of course you did." Like because they knew him longer than I did, it just made sense for that. But for me, it was kind of like, oh, interesting. But I'm very glad that I did that because a lot of them are rock climbers, go to the gym around here. It's something that I've enjoyed for a long time, but never really known anybody that did the same thing. And I've been wanting to do more of that. So it's like it opened up this whole opportunity for this new set of friends. But it again began in that place of I used to consider myself an introvert. There's a great TED talk on the power of introverts, I think it is, and she wrote a book on it, and kind of saying it's not really about an introvert or extrovert. It's really about maybe we have some dynamics that we lean on one side or the other, but they change depending on different scenarios, relationships, and situations. And that it's more of a spectrum that we can kind of flow between and try and bring ourselves into new places that might be uncomfortable. And so that's kind of what that was initially for me of like, am I going to go to this place by myself that I really don't know this person very well, but it feels right. And then also opening to like all these other people I may not even know and who's going to be there and all these questions that can't be answered. But instead kind of resolving that initial anxiety, allow myself to feel calm in that and be like, yeah, I want to do this. And then being glad that I did. And now we're hanging out after that as well. So potentially made some new friends and very excited about that to be able to apply what I know is something that's maybe a tendency of mine that, has this truth from the past, but at the same time may not serve me anymore. And if I want these new levels of life, like why say no to something if it's not actually a threat, even though it feels like an alarm inside. So yeah, that was, I guess, very happy that I did that. And I think it's a good thing for all of us to kind of question ourselves of some of the ways that we feel these emotions arise and the truth of them or not.
So beautiful and so impactful, that story, because it kind of describes all of us. And I love what you're talking about. Sometimes we're between an extrovert and an introvert, and that inner little child that has a pattern, and the strength and the courage it takes to stretch and do something differently that opens up a whole new world and whole new friends. That really impacts what is, I believe that's the journey we're all on as human beings right now. We're beginning to discover how utterly wonderful we all are once we get to know each other. And so, like for my Mother's Day, Emmy, who is from the middle of Congo in Africa, considers me a mother, and I consider her a daughter. And she has all these beautiful women that were celebrating Mother's Day that are her friends that she wanted to meet me. And my daughter and I went to celebrate Mother's Day at Amy's birthday party for her son, who just turned 20. So we celebrated a birthday party and the gathering of all the women that are significant to Amy's life as her friends that are now my new friends. And it was absolutely wonderful. One of my most wonderful Mother's Days, as I was saying to Joey and Kim earlier before we went on the air. I was seeing old childhood friends of my son and my daughter and embracing the new international family that we're becoming, because we're beginning to have these wonderful, unique experiences and conversations to celebrate our humanity. And we all come from being little children. And to this day, when we're going through challenges, we will be anxious when we're going to try to make a discerning, we know we should check something out, but we're not sure whether we should. And we have these anxious moments. We're just like a little child, all of us. But when we stretch, it's like we bring out that more mature child that's living in the human family in a much better way. And so Kim, build on that, because I think, yes, we all have pain and trauma, but boy, we're really healing a lot these times of living through the pain and trauma and our anxiety to begin to stretch and see, wow, we can have an amazing experience if we take a little bit of a chance.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And Joey, I so identify with you so much because I'm the one who used to make those excuses all the time. just again, because that was like my pattern. I wasn't supposed to have friends, was like the rule. I actually remember the first time I got to go to a friend's house. Uh, it was in grade school. And it was a huge deal because I felt like it was like a forbidden thing. Like I wasn't supposed to be going anywhere, but I went to this person's house, and it was like I don't know, it was incredible. It was this like crazy secret experience that I couldn't tell anyone about. It was so funny. But like going through that, I would make those excuses because in my reality it was like, well, you don't do that. You don't go to people's houses. You don't talk to people. So I felt a sense of safety in, I'll just say, my mom said no. That was always my go-to. My mom said I can't go. So I'd put the responsibility on someone else, so I wasn't the bad guy. Um, but I could still feel safe. And then as time went on, like now that I'm a mom, I love like watching she's like the opposite. My daughter's the opposite of me. She's the kid that, we go to the playground and she'll go up to anyone and everyone that she sees, and she's like, "Come on, let's play." With all this energy and excitement, and it's so funny to see how children respond to her, because I think she's probably the most outgoing that I've seen compared to all the other kids. So in my personal journey, it's there's the awareness of, okay, here's some old patterns and some old tendencies that I tend to do. With their social gatherings, I know I have a tendency to say, "Ugh, I don't have the energy to go." It feels like it's too much. It feels like um I think now at this point, like my fear is more, I feel like I have to expend energy to interact with people. And so now I have to come out and I have to like look like I'm focused, and I have to pay attention, and I have to respond to stories. And so to me, that's like, it feels like there's energy being expelled to do that. Whereas if I could sit back and kind of watch people, I'm more of a people watcher. I like to watch people, because then I don't feel threatened in terms of I have to engage and share, but I get to learn because I love the interaction. I love watching, like, oh, that's an interesting story. That sounds really cool. Or listening about the rock climbing. I would love that. So I love to listen. I'm a great listener. um so there's the awareness, and then there's also noticing that, okay, what are some traits that I want to have? In watching my daughter, I'm actually taking lessons. I'm taking lessons from her as I'm watching. I'm like, huh, okay, so that's how she does it. And I'm watching like how people are responding to her, and I'm like, wow, okay, that works really well. And then there's some kids that are shy, and they kind of look at her like, I don't know you. What do you mean you want to play together? So it's just really interesting seeing all these different dynamics. I find that I learn, in my experience, I learn by the watching. I watch others to see how are they interacting with other people, and how are they being received? How are other people responding to them? And so for me, that's how I learn. I'm like, okay, that it looks like that technique will work. Let me try that one on. And then, like on an airplane, that would horrify me to to be stuck next to someone that like is talking to me. And if they're really great, and I feel that I'm resonating with their energy, I would probably, like, that'd be fine. It depends on the person and who they are. But if it's a person that I'm not interested in and they just want to keep talking, I'd probably be like, I want to read a book. Like I just want to take a nap, or let me look out the window. Like, like I would feel that anxiety. So I don't know, a lot of different directions there, but yeah, just all those little pieces. It's so interesting how we work.
Yeah, and sometimes the children can be our greatest teachers. Sylvia, you have a beautiful young daughter that I've watched grow up because of such beautiful mothering that I've witnessed with you and she. And would you like to do a little bit of talking about the significance of friendships because it is relevant to the conversation for all of us. We're kind of like all little children. And my sense is sometimes it's our children that are our greatest teachers, to be honest with you. And I often think of the Christ saying, suffer the little children to come on to me. And we all have that little child in us. But we also have the blessing of being mothers and fathers, having these children come to teach us how beautiful we are. So Sylvia, tell us a little bit about your journey with your daughter and how significant it's been to me as your friend to watch this beautiful soul grow because of the influence of your mom and you on her soul. And she just shines as her mother does. And you're sort of a little extrovert like myself because you love people. So tell us a little bit about you and your daughter.
Sure, I will say that she's just turned 16, so it's been a joy to still learn from her. Definitely, it was all around that Frozen movie and, the song, Let It Go, Let It Go, Let It Go. So that was played over and over again. So I'm like, okay, I have to start to pay attention to why is it that she wants to play it more than often. And I'm thinking, okay, am I resonating something that I need to let go of? So just like those little things have been such a joy to actually really see. I think she's a little bit more of an introvert than, of course, I'm an extrovert. And so just recently she's been part of the play in the high school. And just to see her expand. And like you said, Kim, like it takes energy to be around people that are more extrovert, to know that she has to interact with other kids. And so that was a little bit of a test for her. And I just really, my heart goes out that she is having more of an extrovert than an introvert side to her. But it's still happening. I mean, there's times that she looks at me and she says, why do you think that you have to make it happen? Or, if something's going on with me, I can figure it out. I'm like, okay, right? But as a mom, like you want to give solutions and you want to be there for her. So yeah, so she's still letting me to be awake and see, okay, I don't always have to be there and make it happen for her. She has to learn now. So it's constantly growing for myself and for her. So really appreciate this expansion in my life as I grow and learn myself in other ways that we are moving into a different time and a different season in our lives. So thank you.
And thank you. There's so many seasons in our lives. And I remember going to many workshops over the years where people would be asked, what season are you in? And it's a wonderful way because some of us would be much more easily able to share what season we're in on a 1-to-1 or 2 to 3 people. And in fact, most people are not extroverts and happy to speak in front of large groups. The reality is the best way to create a conversation is like Joey on a plane. If you're comfortable and you're reading a book that's common interest, right away you have a connection that connects you. But like Kim was saying, if you're sitting next to someone that has an energy that just wants to complain about their lives the whole 5-hour trip, wow, you're going to have to try to find a bathroom on many occasions during that trip. There's so many diverse personalities in need of, and they say that complete strangers have a tendency to dump on complete strangers where they wouldn't be courageous enough to share it with someone else. So they're usually very lonely, hurting people that need to share something. But again, we have to be very sensitive that being in relationship and having friends, everything takes energy. And the most important thing for all of us is to honor our own energy, our own diverse ways of being in the world, and meet ourselves every day where we're at. I think that's an important thing about friendship. Be a friend with ourselves first. On bad days and not so good days, let's give Judith a good hug and start the day off in a better way. So let's keep expanding on this powerful thing called friendship, because I think we're touching upon the fact is we have to be our own best friends sometimes in life, and to know we need some time alone, and that friendships and everything takes energy. Or like me, I love people, so people give me energy. To be part of a group living in joy and really, really resonating with each other, we can help each other become bigger and better people every day. But again, it's a consciousness of being very conscious. Whose energy do you choose to be in that really makes you feel good about who you are? And we mutually build each other up. And I think that's what these programs are all about. I look forward to them every month. I get a boost because I meet these beautiful young souls. And as a grandmother, Sylvia, you're one of them. I get so inspired. You guys are light years ahead of where I was at the same age. And I have great hope that the cat who's coming through, that will get as evolved as the four-legged ones and the winged ones and the ones that swim. There's hope for the human race as we have these conversations. So let's keep building on friendship, Kim. And I think we have to keep an eye on the time as well, because the cat's giving us a wake-up call.
That's yeah, and I love our furry friends. They really do. I mean, we talk about them having a sixth sense. They really do. They can sense what we need before we need it, you know, and sometimes socially, like they'll pick up on it if we're feeling lonely or if something's going on and we just need a furry hug. um, so that's, you know, I love the cat. I love the cat. I'm a cat person. I love dogs too. We just don't have one because we live in an apartment, but yeah, so much to expand on. And just bringing it back to the people, as you were talking, Judith, it brought to mind, you know, that how some people, like you said, feel that it's giving energy to connect with people, like, oh, I have to give, and it's a lot of output. And then like you receive, you're like, oh, I get to be energized with all these people. And it's interesting, my wife and I are sort of like that. I am more of the person who, you know, I feel like I have to output a lot to interact with people, and she gets fired up when she, like, if she's in a group or something, she just loves it. She gets all excited and energized. And it's an interesting dynamic because, of course, you know, she likes to go to gatherings and drag me along with her. And I'm just like, all right, well, I get to let her do the talking because she loves to talk. So there's that dynamic. But then what I need to be aware of as her partner is there's times when I want that quiet alone time. And so, you know, sometimes, like, for a date night or something, I might be like, I just want to stay home. Like, could we cuddle on the couch together and watch a movie? Or sometimes we read a book together, or like something that's just quiet and only the two of us. And sometimes I need to be aware of, like, if she's in that place, like if we do that all the time, that can make her feel drained because she's not, like, getting out there and interacting and kind of getting her charge, you know, with groups of people. So sometimes, as I define myself as like an introvert, sometimes as an introvert I have to be aware, like, am I sort of dragging down my spouse who thrives on this energy, and just being aware of, like, okay, is there a happy medium? You know, could we take turns, or something? Like, is there, um or could I grow? Could I challenge myself to grow a little bit? And hey, this time let's go out somewhere. Let's, like, yesterday for Mother's Day we went to the mall and we walked around. It was a very long walking day, but we walked around and just being in the energy of people, and yet we were together as a family too. So that was a nice blend where we could interact in different ways based on how we were feeling in the moment as the day went on. So just really, um noticing all these pieces of balancing our needs and the needs of the people around us as we go through our relationships, and we give ourselves grace and we give each other grace as we notice what we need and how we can move through the day with that in mind.
And that's so well said, because no matter whether we're extroverts, introverts, or somewhere between on any given day, either or, honoring that in every new day, sometimes we need that sacred space to know on certain days I might feel like going out and walking to the mall. And other days I might not feel like it. So it's kind of like when you're in partnership and you're both good friends traveling the journey of life, you become more cognizant that sometimes it's just best to do something and meet each other halfway to sometimes do nothing. And that's okay. So I think it's a journey of always learning to meet ourselves where we're at and develop this thing called mutual respect, like Sylvie was speaking to with her daughter. Sometimes we think we need to do things for our children, but in actual fact, the kids already have that maturity to know that they know how they're going to create something new in their life, and they don't need or want the mothers to be part of that process at certain ages. It's like they're testing things out and they need that independence to begin to do that journey of learning what do they really like. So Joey, you're going to be going more traveling on the airplane, or are you finished your traveling to meet new friends by flying?
Not much traveling, maybe until the end of this year, but always open to new opportunities if it arises and it's the right person. Love what both of you are saying. Definitely on board with all of that. And I think the other piece that I kind of said as well is like always challenging what we believe we think we are, and being open to new possibilities in the same way Kim was saying that like having that relationship with her partner has pushed her to maybe try new things so that it feeds them both. And I was pretty surprised by myself that I'd consider myself introvert, and that's what I kind of locked myself into without realizing it. And then when I found emotional resolution, which is the technique that I share with my clients to help them to resolve traumas and different emotions, that I realized myself that I had a fear of public speaking and social anxieties. And I didn't really even notice, and I think I've told this story before, but it applies now, is I hadn't really even noticed that I really had these anxieties. It was just who I thought I was and how I thought it was normal to feel in different social interactions, where I knew I felt more comfortable, more one-on-one. And if I was at a gathering, usually I'd stay with my friends or in a certain space one-on-one, but didn't really just like extrovertedly go out and be energized by the entire group. Whereas when I noticed that I was experiencing these different social anxieties or this fear of public speaking and was able to resolve it in my body through the physical sensations, that it naturally just kind of fell away. And I noticed myself going to new places and actually being enlivened by it in a way that I never was before. So and that is literally this situation here. I probably wouldn't have said yes to be on these calls with you because I couldn't control it. I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know, and it's going to be recorded. It's going to be live for the rest of the internet. And so that can be confronting. And I know that was to me as in my past self before resolving these emotions. And so I guess it makes me wonder as to like, how much do we often stick to who we think we are? And are there ways where we can actually get energized by something that used to deplete us? And so it doesn't mean that now I'm the most extroverted person, like I'm not. And that's maybe just my personality and who I am. But there are pieces definitely like in that story I mentioned where I, had this conversation with this random person and then have now become friends where like, I know before I think I would have felt uncomfortable in that situation. And I might have closed myself off without realizing it. And then also wouldn't have been willing to exchange information. I definitely wouldn't have asked. So if he would have asked, I would have said yes. But would have I actually then chosen to reach out and find a time to actually hang out? Probably not. And so like, that's where I think it's like moment by moment and individual by individual, circumstance by circumstance. I think we get more opportunities to kind of like ask ourselves, like, is this something that feels right and comfortable to me? And potentially could I be energized by it? And for me, it's been yes in situations that I expected I probably wouldn't have even tried to in the past. And this is to not put pressure on anybody to do those things, but I think it's just kind of a self-consciousness awareness exercise of like, that's who I used to be. And I know these tendencies about myself. And maybe that's true now and that's cool. And also maybe I want to try something different and we'll see what happens, because we never really know where it might go. Yeah. So, and I know we're probably coming somewhat close to time. I was curious if anybody else has any closing comments to close up here about friendship.
Well, I love to be able to build on what you're talking about because it's kind of like we're lightening up and letting go of old patterns. And many times we don't recognize that we're working towards a breakthrough. And all of a sudden we make a breakthrough and we do something that we would never have imagined we were doing. For example, we've been talking and having these heartfelt conversations that I think are integral to our own processing of the times in which we're all living through, where friendships are very important. And the more that we open ourselves to new experiences and new friends in ways that we just trust our inner knowingness, that we're not having an agenda, we're just going to honor a new way of being in the world. And I think that's what human relationships on planet Mother Earth are asking us to do in these times of great challenges, to begin to look at the power of relationship with self, relationship with others. And in a way, let's lighten up and, like children, start to have fun. We deserve to have fun. We've been through a very hard time on Mother Planet Earth. And the grandmothers have been saying to me for years, it's time to sing and dance and drum and live from joy. So let's every day count our blessings because of friends and new friends. We are friends, all four of us today, gathering on a conversation about friendship. And how wonderful that Sylvia would call and engage in this today. And Sylvia, it's such a blessing and gratitude to have you as part of that conversation today. And as we all journey forward, I just want to say something very, very important. When we're moving forward in our conversations this summer, I know that we're always building blocks like little children. We're building the new that's going to be emerging from the old to the new. And we need these blocks that help create faith in a better world and a better place for our future generations. So on behalf of all elders and grandmothers and mothers and fathers all over the planet, June 19 is about faith in a better world, because we're lightening up. We're unpacking some of the luggage, we're unpacking some of the trauma, and our pain is becoming the compassion the world needs. And that goes into the July 17 date of our conversation on service. And service is service to a cause much bigger than ourselves. The cause is for future generations, for all the children, to go back to the roots of family, where family is what is most important. And the modern nuclear family comes in many different forms. It's way beyond what we can imagine, the human family on Mother Planet Earth. And we're all getting in the same boat as one human family now. And we are growing in sync. And we are going to row together towards the new shores for all future generations, to have less trauma and much more joy in our lives. So I just want to thank you all for engaging in these conversations, and Kim for opening the conversations, and Joy for closing the conversations. I personally look forward to these conversations every month, because I think this is a time to engage. And I hope many people will be inspired when they're having days to just say, hey, I want to listen to what these folks are talking about. What are they going through? And what can they share with the world that might give me a little spark in my soul to light up and bring darkness to some of the things that are of significant challenges to these times. So thank you all. And Joy, could you like to bring us a closing and help us to bring this conversation on friends to a new light and a new dimension of reality as we continue the journey towards the year 2023 becoming the best year possible for all human potentiality.
Yes. And before I do that, Kim, just wanted to, if you had any closing comments, if anything that wasn't said yet, feel free. Otherwise, we'll close out.
Really, the only thing that I would add was this idea of accepting us as we are. Just realizing that we really are more alike than we are different. Because all of us, every human on the planet, we all have fears, we all have anxieties, we all have joys, we all have things that we're going through, and just being willing to open our hearts to one another and have this feeling of acceptance towards other people, other cultures, ourselves, and being willing to hold space for one another. I think That's so important when we are talking about friendships, is just being loving and accepting of ourselves and others.
And thank you so much, Kim, because not just holding space, but Sylvia being in the space. And would you like to add a few words from what you've experienced by being the blessing to us to be part of this sacred space today?
I'll just keep it short because I have been just recognizing that I'm here as a container for freedom and for love. So we'll leave it at that.
Beautiful. Joey, it's all you. The women are blessing the male here in this group.
Beautiful, all. Thank you for being here. It's been a lovely journey again for our monthly conversations. Definitely been lovely to see a little snippet of the human condition and what we all have different backgrounds that have brought us here today, but still have a lot of the same strings that connect us of being human and what it is to put yourself out there and be a friend for somebody and be a friend for yourself, first of all. And how important that can be to help all of humanity to flourish more readily. And so, as Judith had mentioned, our next call is going to be the topic of faith. Currently, we have it as June 19th, but I think we might be changing it to Fridays. We still have to talk about that on the backside for us. So that might be Friday, June 23rd, if it is going to be the following Friday. But either way, we'll have it on the OWL schedule, and you can catch our recordings on YouTube. So we look forward to seeing you next month for the topic of faith. Love to you all. See you next time.
Blessings.
Bye, everybody.
Hugs, human family.